Welcome to the Journey of an Aesthete podcast, a comprehensive examination of all things aesthetic, the arts, the humanities, and what it means to be human.
Joey Romer.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning to you. I'm so happy to be able to talk with you finally. Welcome to Journey of an Aesthete.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
I have a lot of different kinds of guests on my show, as you may or may not know. What they all share in common, I think, is I would say a diversity of life experience and a rich breadth of abilities and accomplishments. And some of those guests I know personally, some I have never met, and some are friends of friends. And in your case, you're someone that's worn a lot of different hats, right? Because you
to some degree, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm really excited. You've worked. So you're an expert on dogs. I should add right up front. You have your own smart Paws. Right,
yes,
is the name of your...
Now, I've got some pretty good experience. You may call it an expert if you want, but I definitely know what I'm doing with dogs. So I pretty much enjoyed it. I started at 11 years old and kind of went with it from there.
So I guess the thing for me in the linear chronology is what do you want to discuss first? Usually I start from someone's origins, which I guess in your case would be entering law enforcement and your experiences in that. And then your work, and then your work with dogs, and then your humanitarianism, which I hope we can get to because you're also a humanitarian.
Yeah, absolutely.
So whatever comes to your mind first? What did you? There's a lot of at this particular time. I guess you might say misconceptions about law enforcement, and some, it's a very, as you, I don't need me to tell you, it's a. I've got on my bedside reading. I have a first edition of Joseph Wambog's The Glitter Dome. So I'm in the middle of reading that. I don't know if you've read that, Joseph Wambog.
No. Actually, I pretty much work almost 7 days a week.
Yeah.
I've been remodeling my house lately, and it's been absolutely crazy. So I'm hoping here in about another month I can slow down just a little bit, maybe take 1 or 2 days off a week. Okay,
yeah, that's important. Also, during the virus, a lot of people are remodeling. I think I noticed there's an upswing in that.
Absolutely. I am so pleased with it. I've got so much furniture from Bali and kind of getting that Bali theme going on. But, hey, let's talk about law enforcement. You want to know how I got into law enforcement?
Well, wherever you want to start. I mean, because I imagine it probably started when you were young. So
yeah, I was actually right at 17, 18 years old. I had no idea what I wanted to do with a career other than a few thoughts of, maybe a chiropractor or an x-ray technician or a fireman. I happened to work with a buddy of mine that said, why don't you be a cop? Well, I so happened to be a little surf rat up at Jacksonville Beach, Florida. Mm-hmm. And I had long hair and all this and all that. Well, my buddy said, hey, you can go out and ride with my brother, who is actually a Jack's Beach cop named David. So I met David. David says, hey, you got to go get your hair cut. So I actually got my hair trimmed. I got it maybe an inch trimmed. So I put on my corduroy Levi's and my silk shirt with a tie. Wow. I went down to the police station in Jack's Beach, and David says, you didn't get your hair cut. I said, yeah, I did.
That's funny.
So he talked to his sergeant. They let me ride that night, and let me tell you what a busy experience they had. I loved it so much that I went out and got my hair cut that day above my ears, and actually got to ride with them that Saturday night also. So from then on, it was pretty much, I want to be a cop, and I've been very fortunate, very blessed, and I'm glad I did it. I would do it all over again.
Well, I may ask you what years those were. I would corduroy Levi's. I'm guessing early '80s, right?
Let's try 1981.
81 was right. And what? So what did you see? So that's called a ride along. Am I correct? So
absolutely, yeah.
Is that something?
A lot of agencies have the ride along program where you can go out and experience experience on hands-on what law enforcement actually does on the streets.
I guess what I really like to hear from you in your own words is the collective experience over many years, performing that public, it is a public service. It's part of society. I mean, every society has to have laws, number one, and number two, has to deal with people who, for whatever reason, worst case scenario, they're psychopathic, or best case, are just troubled, break laws and manage it. Yeah. So talk about what comes into your consciousness about the flow of events, your earlier arrests, or what you learned, or just anything that comes to your mind. Any reflections you have about?
On the most part, I mean, you've got to have some type of structure in society. It's a matter of people helping people. I mean, sure, there's a lot of people out there with mental disabilities and economic disabilities and so forth, and it's stressing. It's taxing, and it's kind of getting it's getting a feel of their life, the way they live, but so many of them develop what they call a norm, what is their norm, which might not be your norm or my norm, and in society get in trouble. But a lot of times when I end up having to arrest somebody, I always get kidded at the jail, because most of these people that I arrest end up, hey, thank you, Deputy Romer, and shake my hand, and I'm like, well, get yourself right, and move on from there.
So you see yourself as performing, I guess, a necessary function in society, humanitarian, you might say, function, which we'll get to. I know you've done more work in that. But
people around the world you're referring to, like Bali and so forth?
Yes, sir. I would like to hear some about that a little bit later, because I don't want to get too far ahead. Uh-huh. So you're working as a cop in the 80s, and you're are there patterns that you see that you've been able to help, or things that frustrated you, or what were just whatever, positives or negatives of doing that kind of work in those times? Of course, technologically it's changed and all that.
Well, in reality, to some degree, and I'll admit, I think you see so much negative being a police officer that you kind of become almost numb to certain situations, or it sounds cold. Mm-hmm. And for instance, death. I mean, we see death quite a bit, and it's got to be handled. At least I'm the person that's there that's able to go ahead and do what needs to be done. I mean, I enjoy that. I enjoy helping the family. There's been times where I've sat down and I've literally cried with the family. Oh, yeah. It's hard at times, but like I said, on the most part, after time, you tend to be cold or numb to it, which is a sad thing. Mm-hmm. But yet, inside myself, I always say a little prayer for the person. Mm-hmm. But again, it falls back on people helping people. I enjoy helping people, and I'm glad I could be there to help. Not everybody accepts me or law enforcement with open arms, but even those people, it's not my fault that they don't accept. Yeah. It's who they are, and at least I try to set a good impression, and I still tell them, hey, listen, I'm here if you need me, and leave it at that. Yeah. And the amount of people that I've had contact with throughout the years, I mean, if you're there for them and you're honest and fair with everything, they're going to come back to you. They're going to give you information that's needed that may break a case. There's so many different aspects out there. Just being their friend can help them emotionally to be a better person than they once were.
Well, that's an interesting thing. So you say that even the people that don't embrace it, well, I guess it's not really a question of embracing or non-embracing, because it's a function in society, right? A necessary function.
Meaning law enforcement.
Law enforcement,
the structures are necessary.
And I guess what I was wondering, you were talking about the negative side of, I guess the coldness but isn't there a value? I just thought occurred to me. Is there not a value in being stoic in a moment of crisis where you don't want to be overcome by emotion? You have to act instantaneously, say a life or death situation.
Absolutely correct. And I've got to admit, I mean, there has been a couple of times in my career where I have literally just had to go around the corner and just bawl my eyes out. I mean, especially involving children, the death of a child or the serious, things that have been done to children sometimes. I mean, they're the most innocent ones, and that's one of the hardest. But yeah, you try to maintain a composure, a professional composure, and you try to be there for the people. But then again, we're human also. I mean, we're not robots. We do have emotions, but there are those times where we tend to get a little bit callous, in a sense, it appears. But underneath it all, I mean, we're still human, and we still have feelings and emotions.
Absolutely. Not to change the subject too much, but you were a surfing cop. I should tell you, I just rewatched Point Break. I don't know if that's a favorite movie of yours or not. I hope it is, but
absolutely it is.
How many times have you seen it?
Oh my God! Honestly, I don't have much time to watch TV, but I've probably seen it twice.
Yeah. Did you identify with that when it came out? Or did you feel that it was some reality in terms of surfing?
Oh, absolutely. I had to watch it. Yeah, if it's got anything to do with surfing, it's got something to do with me.
How long have you been surfing?
Again, I was 11 years old when I got my first surfboard from my father. My father was actually 77 years old and still surfing at the Jack's Beach Pier. He rode a longboard. He always wore an orange ball cap.
Yeah.
And he was always the furthest one out, and don't get in his way. They called him Dangerous Dad because if you got in his way, he was still going where he wanted to go. And I remember one time I had actually taken the same wave that he was already on. And I'm surfing. I'm thinking, hey, I'm going to surf the same way with my dad. He ran my surfboard over and put the biggest ding in it. I cried. I got out of the water crying. And he ended up getting it fixed for me. But he says, hey, when I'm on a wave, don't get in my way. And it was with me as well as it was for just about anybody else. So
yeah. That's amazing. I mean, surfing is something I've never experienced personally. It's not part of my.
I love going around the world surfing different places. Panama, Costa Rica. I've surfed Mexico. I've surfed California, Hawaii, and Kauai itself, North Shore, and one of my favorite places now happens to be Bali, Indonesia.
Which brings us to what you've been doing there. If you want to talk about whatever you want to talk about, that would be because a lot of people don't know about these things, and on our show we like to inform people about what's going on and what's important, and what you.
What I've actually done, I mean, and all the places I go, really, I enjoy going places that I can surf. Yep. However, I do train with the German police over outside of Berlin and in Berlin. And just here in a few months, I plan on training with one of my cop buddies who's getting a new dog in January. So we'll be training at the airport over in Berlin. I think it's the new airport, and I can't think of the new name of it.
Wow.
But I learn a lot from the German police, and I was involved for quite a few years down in Daytona. Every November, we would certify police officers from all over the United States, from the islands. We had one from actually Russia came in and went through the certification class down in Daytona. And I learn a lot from the German police, and then I actually go and I train our police and the police in Panama. I worked with a group, a canine team over in Bali, Indonesia last March. But just to be able to express the knowledge that I've gained from learning different places in different areas of the world. I also train with the more or less the Caesar Milan of Germany, who is Sasha Bartz. And he goes into the depths of the way the dog thinks and what's best for the dog. So I've learned a lot from him as well as far as behavioralism of the dog. But just going over to Bali and being able to surf as well as work with different canine teams over there, and become friends with the police around different parts of the world. And it's very unique because the law enforcement style in every country is really, some of it is really different.
I'm really
from one country to the other.
I'm really happy you brought that up. Do you mind talking a little bit more about what, say, makes Germany unique? What makes some of the places you've been? The police culture, what they do that you can learn from, or what they do that it's interesting.
Let me tell you, Germany. I mean, the most professionalism, and they're very structured over there, and it's very impressive because when they present themselves, I mean, it's in a very professional manner. And we do what needs to be done. We want they want me to learn. They want their comrades to learn, but it's a very structured environment. And, once the work is done, they like to sit back and let's light a fire and let's kick back, and they drink, their different drinks and their beer and have a good time. I'm not really that much of a drinker.
Yeah,
but,
me too.
Boy, I tell you, some of them, when it's time to bed down for the night and just chill out by the fire, they can do some drinking over there. But, and then different places, Panama, for instance, Panama, they're open and willing to learn. I mean, they know a lot already, but there's little things that I've picked up, like I said, from Germany, that I can go out there and help motivate them to motivate their dogs. Now, a lot of people, for instance, if you have a drug dog or a bomb dog, you tell your dog to go out there and find it. But the dog communicates through energy. So if your energy is low and not enthusiastic, then odds are your dog's energy is going to be low and not enthusiastic. But if you make searching for bombs or searching for drugs exciting and fun for your dog, then your dog's going to have more motivation to go out there and look and search, But you got to convey that energy, that you are happy as its leader, and the dog as a follower has just made you happy. So convey that energy of happiness to your dog, and your dog's going to be more willing to even work harder or happier.
Joey, you mentioned energy in dogs. Is there anything you would like to tell our audience about the uniqueness of a dog? You're going to call it, what do you say, it's spiritual or not, or energy? What dogs can do, or what insight they have into anything that you would like listeners to know about, or your own work training them. Anything that comes to your mind. I know it's a big topic. I'll tell you this. A dog that has high energy, uncontrollable. Most ordinary people will say, I can't do anything with this dog. But the dogs with the high energy are sometimes one of the most easiest dogs to train, because you guide that energy into, you condition it through repetition into the behavior that you want within its human pack. You are your dog's pack, whether it be the husband, the wife, the children. That is the human pack. So the dog needs to conform to the rules of the pack. And the dogs will do what dogs do because they don't know what else to do. If you don't show them what to do within the pack, then you're going to continue to pull your hair out. You're allowing the dog to do what it does because it doesn't know what else to do. And in the dog's brain, if you're allowing the dog to do the behavior that you don't want, well, in the dog's brain, it's pleasing you because you're allowing it to happen. You simply have to guide that energy into the behavior that you want the dog to have within the human pack. Do you think comes to mind a moment in which you were either a dog you had trained personally, an experience that you said to yourself afterwards, if it weren't for that dog, we would not have, solved this crisis, this human crisis, whether in terms of crime or in terms of saving?
I'll tell you what. Okay, so I picked up a German Shepherd puppy one time. It was 8 weeks old, and this was right around 9/11, and I ended up training the dog for explosives.
Wow.
So we ended up having a robbery call around midnight one night to a little store, and the guy went in with a rifle. He robbed the clerk, took the money, and as he went out, the guy's gold bracelet broke off at the door and fell onto the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the deputy had enough common sense to take the bracelet and put it in a paper bag. And I ended up getting woken up, going down to do a track to see where this guy may have gone.
Yeah.
So he showed me the bracelet and let the dog sniff it. I cast the dog in a concrete parking lot,
Mm-hmm.
which casting is you take the dog out there, you kind of do a circle, and boom, he matches the scent and takes off on a track. We ended up going across the roadway, into the woods about 30, 40 yards, up the railroad tracks, down about another 50 yards.
Yeah.
Made a hard right turn into the woods, and then there was this coagulated, nasty little pond that was about waist deep. So we get past that, and right up on the edge of the bank, my dog alerts.
Mm.
And I'm like, oh, my God, he's around here. He's around here. Well, it ended up the rifle was sticking up out of the mud. Just the rifle nose was sticking up out of the mud a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And we got the other deputies to go ahead and take care of the rifle. We ended up getting prints off of that. We never found the guy, but there was a cul-de-sac that apparently he had parked. He ditched the rifle, got in the car, and he left. So we got the fingerprints off the rifle. We ended up making an arrest from it. So that was one of my favorite ones. And then, right around 2013, I ended up catching 3 bank robbers that had been going all around Florida itself, South Florida, Mid-Florida, North Florida,
Wow.
committing bank robberies. And just fun stuff like that, just amazing. Now, we ended up using a dog to track one of the 3 suspects, and we ended up catching him an hour later. But the dog's nose, the olfactory senses in the dog's nose is amazing. I mean, people don't give dogs credit they deserve. They are amazing.
So credit meaning that people think that they don't have all these abilities that you've seen firsthand and trained and experienced, right? That these skills.
Oh yeah, there's so many things you can do. If you say, for instance, you have a shirt and you don't know who the shirt belongs to, you can simply have a dog smell the shirt.
Mm-hmm.
You could have 100 people lined up.
Wow.
And as soon as the dog gets to that matching odor or that scent of the person, that dog can sit down and stare at the person. And then you can do all your other examinations later after that. Because pretty much, hey, if the dog alerts on that person because of that shirt, that man owns the shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost as clear as a bell is what you're saying. It's just like there's no.
Oh, amen.
It's almost as clear as a bell.
Just like if you have an acre of grass, and you throw a bullet out there, or say a cell phone or some keys, that dog can check an acre of land and find those keys that would take you 2 or 3 days to find if you ever found them at all. But the dog could find those keys probably within 5 to 10 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's the scent.
It's a scent, and also, so it's not just scent though; it's energy, as you said. It's almost a.
Oh, amen! It's fun.
Almost a psychic.
Yeah, it's challenging the brain as well.
What do you want listeners to know about Bali? What, in terms of what drew you? Of course, the surf is important, and the ocean. We could get into that a little bit if you want. I've seen Big Wednesday a number of times, but what? It's more than that, though, right? I mean, there's.
Let me tell you. Oh, the people over there. Oh, one of my best friends now. His name is Coleman, and I was coming out from surfing at a beach called Dreamland Beach, and as I was walking by the restaurants, he asked me if I wanted corn. I was like, no, I'm okay. And we talked for a little bit. He asked me where I got my sunscreen shirt, my long sleeve sunscreen shirt.
Yeah.
And I told him Amazon. He said he couldn't get Amazon. And I was like, you know what? I'm leaving tomorrow, so you can just have my shirt.
Huh.
So we developed a friendship, and he gave me some corn. I ate the corn right there.
Wow.
So it was like a piece of corn for the shirt. And we developed a beautiful friendship and met his girlfriend. And I told him I was coming back in a couple of months. So I actually went home for a couple of months, and I worked, and then I went back for a couple of months. But the funny thing is, I rode on this guy's scooter for 2 hours to go to his village by Agung, Mount Agung, which is a volcano over there.
Wow.
Actually, Agung exploded on January 17th, 2019 last year,
Yep.
which was pretty cool. I was there then. But anyway.
You got to see that. Wow.
Everybody needs an anchor in life. You, me, just everybody. Anchor made this whole show possible. I'm immensely grateful to them. You too can use Anchor to make your own shows and create your own vision. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Thank you.
Yeah. So anyway, when I met his family, he told me about a little boy, just that, and he says, "Oh, this is my nephew, and he has to sit down. His name is Monday. He has to sit down to go pee." And I'm like, "Why does he have to sit down to go pee?" And he told me about a little problem this little boy had. And I was like, no, this poor kid. So I've made an endeavor to help this kid. Hopefully, he's got a little problem with his genital areas.
Oh,
so
okay.
This past February, we actually got him to a doctor over in Bali, and the doctor examined him.
Yeah.
And the doctor said, "Hey, he can be normal again with 3 operations, no complications."
Yeah.
And I don't know the terminology for it, but I don't want to get into specific details. But it's just a little situation with his genital area that can be corrected, and he cannot function as an adult if he continues to grow like this. So I've actually been talking to the Tim Tebow Foundation, a buddy of mine that's with the Tim Tebow Foundation, and the Cure Foundation. But since this COVID's going on,
it's hard, isn't it?
It's kind of it's set everything back. I mean, nothing's been going on. We raised some money, so I've given the family $2,000 just in the last 8 months.
Oh, bless you. That's beautiful.
And that's helping them tremendously.
So I guess hearing about all this, for you, these things aren't different. You know, your police work is connected with the surfing and nature and dogs and as you say, helping people. Is that the common? Would you say that's the commonality of all these things?
Yeah, it's people helping people. Doesn't matter what you do, but if you can just help someone else, just like this child. This child has to be helped.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of children out there that need help, but you know what? If I can at least help this child by people helping me to help this child, or people helping this child to be normal and functioning again one day, that's what I want to see. It's so emotional.
Yeah.
That it's got to be done. And I have an opportunity to help get this done.
Yeah.
So
that's beautiful.
It'll be done. I'm not going to stop until it's done.
Well, you're somebody. You don't strike me as somebody that doesn't complete things that need to be done, and you seem pretty man of your word. I would guess.
Yeah, it's just very difficult if I don't have the right people helping me. That's the only thing. I need that one person that can come up and say, "Hey, I can provide this doctor across borders," or we can pay the Balinese doctor to do what he needs to do. I don't have that kind of money. I don't really know exactly how much it'll be, but it's not nearly as much as it would cost here in America. But that's my main goal, is to really help this child. So hey, get the word out. Something might happen.
Well, we mentioned it on this show, so I'm happy to do that.
Amen.
Immensely.
Cool.
You know a lot about oceans and oceanography, I'm guessing.
To a degree, certain extent.
I grew up a little bit in Florida. Part of the year in New York and Florida, my family was split up, so I know a little bit about Florida. But what comes to mind in terms of the United States in terms of surfing? Unique about California waters, Florida waters. What would you say?
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask an informational question: is what strikes you uniqueness about different parts of the ocean in terms of what, just.
Well, what I've noticed is along the West Coast, you get a lot of unique, very good, strong groundswell. It's a deep wave. It comes from the bottom. It comes up. And I've seen a lot on the East Coast. Now, we definitely get some good waves from time to time. But a lot of ours is there has to be a certain storm out there. There has to be a good wind to kick up the waves and push them to the East Coast. Mm-hmm. But then again, if you go over to Europe, and they get a lot of groundswell. I don't know if it's got to do with the rotation of the Earth or the trade winds and that stuff, but in the Gulf Stream. But they get some mighty good deep waves over there as well. Nazaré in Portugal. Oh my God, they get the 100-foot waves at times. But that's a very unique bottom there. That's a very beautiful, beautiful place. But the water tends to be quite cold as well.
Yeah.
But that's one of the most unique places I've ever seen with the lighthouse over in Nazaré, and looking down from the cliff at the lighthouse and seeing these big, huge waves coming in.
Yeah. Well, Joey, we're coming up to the end of this episode, I believe. I always hate to say goodbye, but there comes a time when the show has to end. And I'm going to leave the last words to you because you've been such an inspiring guest.
Thank you.
If there's anything you want to tell our audience about anything on your mind, about any subject, to close, what do you think you would say or think to say?
Well, one of my beliefs is, life is as good as you make it. And fortunately, I've been blessed with the things that I've chosen in life, career paths and so forth. Mm-hmm. And really, when it comes down to it, if I talk to a lot of young people, I ask them, do you want a job that you work outside or inside? Do you want a job where you are physically active or using your brain a lot? Mm-hmm. Do you want a job where you stand up or sit down? These are things to think about. And then once you kind of narrow that down, you can actually focus and go talk to people who are doing jobs more in the lines of that you would be interested in, and see if it's something you really wanted. Now, I had no clue that I was ever going to be a cop. I was thinking, you know what, I could never be a cop. And that was actually my thought. I could never be a cop. And turns out that I've been chosen Officer of the Year twice, and I've gotten, fortunately, some really good commendations, and I'm pleased with helping people. Mm-hmm. I want to help people. And that's what it falls down to. It's each of us helping each other, it's people helping people. And I'm blessed, so I want to pay that forward.
Oh, thank you, Joey. That's beautiful. That's a best conclusion I can think of. And I know your time is precious, and you're doing a lot of things, working a lot, and of course the house. And so I appreciate your generosity of time and sharing your wisdom and experience on our podcast. Thank you.
Well, Mitch, I appreciate it. And I start dogs at noon today, and I'm back to back till about 8 o'clock tonight.
Well, enjoy. Thank you.
Mitch, thank you, and I hope you have a great, great day.
Happy New Year to you.
Yeah, we're still going to talk after this, right?
Oh, yes. No doubt. All right.
Cool
Bye-bye.
deal.